Marriage is a very important relationship, but what can you do to make it last? How can it last over 50 years? Well, tonight we'll talk with a couple who is celebrating 52 years of marriage. We'll be right back.
Hello, I'm Voncille Greene. Welcome to Living a Godly Marriage. You've already met my darling husband, Melvin Greene. Tonight we have with us in the studio Mr. and Mrs. Abraham and LaVerne Parks, who have been married 50 plus years, and they're going to talk to us about some things they've learned during their long years of marriage. And so we're looking forward to talking with them. We thank you all for joining us.
I'm Abraham Parks, and this is my lovely wife,
LaVerne Parks.
First of all, how did you meet, and how long have you two been married? If you could answer those questions for us, we would very much appreciate it.
Sure. I'll tell you how we met, and then I'll just let him tell you how long it's been.
Oh.
We actually attended the same junior high school. We were not that close at the time, but we did have friends in common. And in fact, one of my girlfriends was actually dating his best friend, who was like a brother. They ultimately joined the Marine Corps after high school and went on to Vietnam together. We sort of got together after he returned home on leave from Vietnam.
Mm-hmm. So absence make the heart grow fonder, right?
A little bit, I think. I think so.
Yes.
So how long have you been married?
Oh, we've been married 52 glorious years. As a matter of fact, March
gosh.
1st this year, we celebrated 52 years of marriage.
Oh, congratulations.
Wonderful.
Thank you. A few
That's
days
wonderful.
ago.
Yeah. And how many children do you have and grandkids?
Look, we're getting old. None of us remembers exactly either of us. We have 3 children, that much we can tell you. But we are a blended family. And so we have lots of grandchildren and great-grandchildren. I think 11 grandchildren and about 8 or 9 great-grands. I don't know. Wow. I would have to start calling their names off and counting them.
No, you don't have to.
It seems like more at Christmas and holidays.
Well, let me ask you a question. You said you're a blended family. Mrs. Parks, were you married before? Is this your first marriage?
No, I was not. Before we got together, I had a niece. My sister had a daughter who was like a daughter to me. Yes. And Abraham had a daughter. Mm-hmm. And so she was our first. Kimberly is the oldest.
Oh, okay.
Then Arlene, Kimberly is 54, 53, 54. And Arlene is 50. And Raymond will be 46 in a few days. Sunday.
Oh, okay.
That's wonderful. Your situation is similar to ours. Of course, Mel has 3 daughters, and I'm just wondering how that transition was for you. Was it a difficult one, or were you guys able to blend pretty easily?
Well, initially there was some hills, bumps, and tsunamis, but with prayer, you can overcome anything.
That is so true.
Now, as a matter of fact, again, like I say, we all go out to dinner together. We celebrate each other's birthdays together. And it's just been, really a labor of love. But again, like I say, there was some mountains to climb at first. Right. But again, like I say, through it all, like I say, he who can do did it for us.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
The thing is, our lives are about our children for the most part. And the idea was a lot of things that occur are adult issues. They have nothing to do with the children. And so I had a child. If he had a child, I had a child. And in fact, I'm always saying, my daughter, my daughter, my daughter, as though she didn't belong to him too, but,
Right.
but those are our children.
And that's one of the keys to blending a family, is that they are your sons and daughters.
This is true.
Yeah, definitely. And we're going to be doing a couple of shows on blended family, because as Voncille mentioned, we blended, and it's we learned some lessons, but we know now that we can share some information that will help many other blended families. In fact, that's the most common marriage today. When a couple gets married, it's not unusual. There's one or more children from a previous relationship, even if it's not a marriage. So we will be doing shows on that. Yeah. But anyway, let's
interject one thing. The things that we encountered were not issues of the children. The children were raised brothers and sisters. There was never an issue. As I said, our issues were adult issues and dealing with things behind the scene for the children, on behalf of the children. Right. And so we're all, my oldest daughter's mom is here when we have Thanksgiving dinner or any of the big holidays. We all celebrate birthdays. We celebrate her birthdays and all. So I don't know how common, but this is the way we've operated for years now.
I think that's wonderful. And I feel like I say Mel's daughters, but I feel like they're my daughters as well. That's how I feel about it.
Absolutely.
And I can't imagine loving them anymore if I had birthed them myself, because I can honestly say I love each and every one of them very much. And I feel like they're my daughters as well. They may feel differently, but I don't. I can't imagine loving them anymore if, as I said, if I had birthed them myself.
As a matter of fact, my daughter married, and it's a blended family with her husband. And it's just been a wonderful, beautiful relationship. I mean, I can't say we can take credit for it, but again, like I say, we've always treated our kids as if, again, it was just one big happy family. There's no, have brothers, have sisters. No, we don't believe in any of that stuff right here. Again, like I say, we are the parents. And we respect each other. And again, like I said, our kids, again, follow in our footsteps.
Okay. Well, let's take the two of you back again, I guess over 50 years now. When you were dating, how did you know, LaVerne, that Abraham was the one for you?
Well, we got married very young, and I'll have to say, they say that I was a little old woman. I always envisioned myself sitting on the porch with my husband in rocking chairs as old people. We had examples in our family of marriages that were lifetime marriages when you look at it. And I always tell him, I said, you've had me all of my adult life, and it's true. I got married when I was 20. And he had just turned 21 a couple of months earlier.
Wow.
So Abraham, how did you know?
I knew he was the one because I could envision myself sitting on the porch rocking with him. Back then, I didn't think about praying and asking for God's wisdom. Didn't know all of that. He proposed and I said yes.
And what about you, Abraham? How did you know that she was the one for you?
Well, it's strange, and when I sit back and think about it, because people often ask this question, 52 years, or how do y'all stay married? When did you know it was the right time? And I remember one evening I was on my way back from the base. I was stationed at Quantico, and I would come back and forth home, and I was on my way to see her, and it just, I'm not sure what happened, but it's kind of like I could just see her face on the way home, and I said, one thing? I said, this is the one for me. And I was going to ask her that evening to marry me. And I chickened out.
He never told me that.
I got there. We had a good time. And I said, am I going to do this today? And I said, you know what? I was raised by my aunt, and she used to always tell me, think about what you do, because every decision you make has consequences. And I thought about that, and I thought about that. I said, you know what? I want to spend the rest of my life with this lady. And,
Aw.
I better put my big boy underwear on and step up to the plate and do what I'm supposed to do, because she might slip right through my fingers and then I'd be sorry. So I said, you know what? This is the one right here. This is the one. I have to do it. So that next weekend, I proposed to her.
Did you have a ring at that time?
Oh, yes. I had the ring. Like I said, I was going to give it to her that evening. But like I said, I kind of backed out and said, let me think about this thing. Make sure I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And it was the right thing.
Oh, yes, obviously. Yeah. So you were almost 50 years later, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
So let me ask a question. So what has been the greatest challenge in your marriage, if you want to talk about that?
Oh, there have been a lot of them. And you see us here calm now. It hasn't always been that way. I want you to know.
Oh, I understand completely.
So how has Christ helped you to overcome those challenges?
But God, if it had not been, oh, Lord have mercy. Let me just tell you, when we got married, we didn't have marriage counseling as such. So we didn't go through all the wonderful things that I see and that I love actually at our church. The wonderful Marriage God's Way, or even the marriage ministry afterwards. We didn't experience any of that. So we were learning as we went along. I mean, again, we started out with a family. You don't think about what's going to happen in all these years. That didn't come to my mind. I wasn't smart enough for that. How many children would we have, and how we would do money, and all of these other things just wasn't an issue. I thought love was enough and it would see us through. It is not. God gave him to me. I know that. And I've known it for a long time. He overlooks my faults and he loves me anyway.
All right.
I overlook his faults. There were times when I didn't. There were times can I tell you a funny story?
Sure.
Yes.
A neighbor told me one time, I heard you yelling at Abraham yesterday. And I thought, now wait a minute. There was a movie called Lackawanna Blues. And if anybody knows it, we are old movie buffs. If anybody knows it, Nanny said, there's some things that's between a man and a woman that are supposed to be between that man and that woman. And I thought, this was long before Lackawanna Blues. Mind your business, take care of your marriage and your husband over there in that apartment, and I'll take care of this one. But yeah, there have been times when we weren't so pleasant with each other.
Yeah.
Well, one of the strange, that, you have to go through is when you accept somebody else as your wife or your husband, you take on their families and all kind of baggage. And one of the biggest, I guess, deterrents and fights we had was with family members. And again, like I said, I had a sister who had helped raise me, who for some particular reason, kept telling me that she's just not the one for you. She's just not the one for you. And I kept thinking about it. I said, well, what do you mean she's not the one for me? But she could never actually pinpoint anything. And again, like I said, I let it was just about a jealousy. She had helped raise me, and she wanted to kind of keep me as a mama's boy. And I said, I have to leave. I said, and this is the woman I'm going to marry. So you either get on board with it or you don't get on board with it, but I'm marrying her anyway.
All right.
And, even then, again, like I say, she became, again, a good ally. And it was, as if, again, she wanted it, but she didn't want it. But it was about protecting me. I know what it was about.
Right.
Right.
So, well, I understand that completely. I know when Mel and I, and I don't know if you're going to talk about this or not, Mel, but after we got engaged, we had a family gathering. I don't know if it was a holiday. I don't remember exactly, but I have 4 brothers, and I don't know if that was the first time they were meeting Mel or not, but I do remember my oldest brother calling Mel to another room I have 4 brothers, and they all wanted to talk to him at the same time. You remember that, honey?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
were you
yeah.
nervous?
And I mean, they were giving me well wishes, but they were also, kind of questioning me to see if I was going to take care of you and if I really loved you and that kind of thing. And I respected that, and I appreciated that. And by the time that and it wasn't a long meeting, they really again gave me a lot of well wishes and just their blessings, and I really appreciated that. I really, really did. And to this day, I'm close with all four of them. They've really been a blessing as we come up on 10 years of marriage.
Oh,
Right. That's a blessing.
Great.
Yes, yes, yes. So let me ask a personal question here that's going to be interesting. Abraham, what's the most romantic thing that LaVerne has done for you over the years? What's the most romantic or a couple of really romantic things for you?
My goodness.
And LaVerne, you're going to answer that too.
Right.
Voncille's going to lead that discussion.
That you can share with us all.
Yes, yes. Something romantic.
It's been so many because she is a romantic at heart. And one of the things that you used to always tell me was that the honeymoon should never end. Right. We can always have a honeymoon. And I used to tell her sometimes, I said, again, like I say, with kids and work, I said, again, like I say, the stresses of the day, it's just, it can't go on. And her thing was, oh, yes, it can. And it will go on. Well, she is the extrovert and I'm the introvert for the most part. And, there have been times when, again, like I say, I've come home and, again, like after working shift work all day long, it's kind of like you get home, it's kind of like, do I have to get home to homework? Again, are we going to do dinner or not? And normally it would always be, honey, just relax. I've got this. But one of the things that she did for me is right after we first got married, and it involved my daughter. And I believe it was my birthday. And she went and picked my daughter up and she brought it to the house, unbeknownst to me. She surprised me with it because she was living with her mom. And, I know at that time, they weren't getting along that well, but, she put herself out and sacrificed for me to make sure that on my birthday, my daughter was there. Oh, and I've never forgotten that. And it was special because I know they didn't get along that well at first. So again, like I say, that's been something that's always been close to me and in my heart. Because again, like I say, she went out of her way to do that just for me.
Oh, wow.
And let me just say, he's not saying the daughter, because we get along just fine and always have, even when she was a little girl. In fact, she told one of her girlfriends, I went to pick her up. Well, Abraham was police official after he was out in the Marines. So of course, there were times when he could not do things anyway. But there were mom things, we would go shopping and I would go to Virginia to pick her up. She told her girlfriend, my mom is coming to get me. And she said, your mom, she meant my stepmom. I don't like the term. It's really offensive to me. And so that was one of the things that created a issue between her mom and me. She didn't want her to call me mom. And I understand that. And that's not to replace her. That's her mom. But at any rate, she said, no, I mean my stepmom. And the little girl said, your stepmom, you like her? She's not a witch. She said, oh, no, not my stepmom.
Wow.
But I didn't even remember. I didn't remember that, and that it meant that much to you. You still remember.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
So there were times when we didn't have her all the time, and it was difficult between, again, adults.
Right.
As a matter of fact, she called us one day and she said, can I come live with y'all? I said, you want to do what? She said, I want to come live with y'all. I said, well, have you discussed it with your mom? I said, is there a problem at home? She said, no, I just want to come live with y'all. Y'all just have a lot of fun. And basically, again, like I say, when we hear the kids from the neighborhood, everybody comes to our house. You come to the house, you call your parents, let them know where you are. Because again, like I say, I know what goes on in my house. So
Yeah.
again, like I said, this was just been the house of love because everybody comes here. And when she said she wanted to come live with us, I said, again, like I said, you need to talk to your mom about that. I said, because I know you don't understand all the repercussions right now because you're a child. I said, but again, like I said, we're still a family. No matter where you are, we're still a family.
Yeah, that's
right. That's right. That is so true. LaVerne, going back to a previous question, what's the most romantic thing that he's done for you in all these years?
Well, I'm easy peasy. He's bought all kinds of things, we've been okay. He's been a good provider and that kind of thing. And I've had things that are luxury items and that kind of thing. So I have some material things, not a lot, but I have some material things, and they don't mean as much to me and they aren't as romantic as seeing him at the airport when I had to travel. And he's there. Back in the day, we used to be able to go all the way up to the gate. And I'm a crybaby. So when he put me on the plane, I'd sit on the plane and boo-hoo and wave, and he'd be there waving at me. And I'd wave to him at the window. And when that plane touched down, when I got back in town, he was at that window waiting for me. And I was looking every time the plane pulled in. He was there.
Yeah.
All right.
That's a wonderful feeling, right?
Not to mention nice Marine Corps massages and nice hot baths and candles and all of that. Love all of that.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Abraham, I wanted to ask you, what advice would you give to a young man that's getting married today about being a husband?
The first
What
thing
are some of the secrets or keys to being a good husband?
Well, I'm asked that question quite a lot. And, what I normally tell people is, again, God made all of us different. We have different gifts and we have different frame of references. There are people who were raised, in families where, again, like there was abuse and there was mistrust. And again, you have to make sure that when you go through life, that if you find somebody you want to spend the rest of your life with, that you make a commitment. It has to be a serious commitment. And when I say commitment, it's like work. My wife used to get upset with me sometimes when I say, this is my job, being married. But when you think about it, marriage is a job because, again, there's so many things that you have to do. At one point in time when we were married, we had 2 kids, and my wife started to travel for the job a lot, which meant, again, I had 2 small kids. I had to learn how to plait hair, make sure, again, like I say, they were dressed. Even though my mother-in-law had quit work, to help care for the kids, they were my responsibility. So again, sometimes, she'd be away and she'd call and she'd be telling me about the good time she was having while she was waiting. I said, well, I'm here doing homework. But at the same time, I wanted her to feel comfortable because I know she was at work and she was away from the kids, and the kids, it's kind of like, well, when is mama coming back home? So, there are periods of time when you are the mother and the father. So what I tell people, especially men, is you have to want to make a commitment, and it has to be a lifelong commitment, because you can't just say, okay, I want to do it today and tomorrow, because there will be problems. And I said, you read the Bible, the Lord tells you, you will have problems, and you can't run away from them. You have to face your problems.
Right.
But again, it's about the commitment. The other thing that I tell men, and I got this from Reverend Omari. We were at a conference one day. He asked a question: how many of you men have ever read a book on menopause? And we all sat there and thought about that, and none of us had. It's kind of like, if you love your woman, you need to actually read a book on menopause to understand why your wife goes through the things that she goes through, why there's stress, why, she can come home someday and she's happy and all of a sudden things just change. And instead of you going ballistic and trying to figure out, again, like I say, what you should and shouldn't do, it's kind of like, okay, sweetheart, this is your space. You tell me what you need me to do. Let me be your guide for now, okay? And download whatever it is you need to. And she may just need some time to herself. But I now tell men, get a book on menopause and read it so you can understand your wife. But then on top of that, read the Bible. Because again, without God, you can't succeed.
Yeah.
Amen. That's so true.
Yeah. if I may, LaVerne, I'm going to ask you the same question, but I'm going to ask you a different question as well. Being a parent to, I consider my Mel's daughters my daughters as well. So what advice would you give to a woman who's marrying someone who has children already?
First of all, everybody has something that they're bringing to the table,
Right.
whatever it is. And the Bible says, Ecclesiastes, I can't remember where it is. You need each other. In other words, you're holding each other up. So if you don't have somebody, you fall down,
Right.
then you have somebody to help you get up. And this is what Abraham has been for me. If you have another child, and if you can't treat that child like that child is your child,
Right.
you don't need the relationship.
Right.
Because if I were a woman with a child, my thought is, if you get me, you get my child. And I wouldn't have a man who would not take my child as his own, not to misplace his or her father, because they don't. That's not the point. But we are there for the children.
Right.
And what advice would you?
Going to bring you a whole lot of things that you hadn't planned for. You know, you may end up taking care, which Abraham and I have done. His sister has early onset Alzheimer's. And in addition to everything else that we had to balance and juggle, we had to move her in with us. So there are things that are going to come in life. And if you don't take care of the early things, you're not going to be prepared for the latter things. But I'm going to tell you, we would not have made 52 years without God. I'm telling you, but God.
No way.
There's no way we could have done this.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. I mean, for Voncille and I, it's been about 10 years, and same thing. You got to have that foundation. You got to have Christ. You have to have that personal relationship, and go to Him and go to God and seek Him, seek His comfort, seek His wisdom, seek His direction. He's the foundation. That's for sure. That's
and if you go into a marriage,
the point of all of this is, that's where you go to seek your advice. That's where you go. You look to God, not Facebook, not friends. Everybody who claims to be your friend may not be.
That is so true.
Your well-being, and they're not all well-intentioned.
That's true. Yeah.
So that's what I would say to a man or a woman. Be careful about who you bring into your marriage. You only need God. If you turn to God and listen for Him.
Yeah, and that's an excellent point. And one thing that I really appreciated about Mel when we were dating, he told me years before we got married that if I ever had an issue or something with him that I was unhappy about, he gave me permission to go to his best friend, who's a good Christian man. And so you don't want just anyone as your
accountability partner. Yeah.
Yes. And so one thing Mel did that I really appreciated.
Yeah, we're running short on time. So.
Oh, okay. Sorry. So, but one thing I really appreciated that Mel did before we got married, he actually had a get to know you party for me at his house. And he invited his best man, who's his best man from our wedding and from kindergarten, right, honey?
We were.
Boy Scouts or whatever.
Yeah.
So he's not, and that was the other thing. He'd known him a long time. So I trust him. And he and his wife have been married, 50 years now?
Yes,
and so that's another point I want to make. It's good if you have an accountability partner, you want to make sure somebody who's of good character and standing and who's a Christian man or a woman.
As always, we invite our viewers to contact us. You can email us at livingagodlymarriage@gmail.com. And as we always like to end our show, what do we say, Voncille? Living
a godly marriage is the best marriage. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you very much. God bless you.